Hey everybody, so I want to apologize for not doing videos yesterday, especially games of the week, which I always do every Sunday. I ended up working yesterday and really didn't have time to do any videos, so ended up working again today as well. So I'm a little behind as far as videos go, and I know a lot of things have happened in the last couple of days that I need to do videos on. Randy Carlisle fired by Anaheim. Nate Thompson traded to Montreal. There's stuff that I need to get to, but I really want to do games of the week now because it's I've already missed a day, and it's getting to the point where it would almost not be worth doing it if I waited any longer. Also, live stream tonight. I'm watching NHL Live for it right now, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia tonight. I will be streaming during that game, as I said a couple of days ago. So, hopefully you can check that out. But I do want to do games of the week here now because it's already Monday. I'm already a day late, and I want to get this out there. So, Sunday, there's no point in talking about Sunday because it already happened. I'm a day late this week. So let's start with Monday. Tonight, the 11th, we have Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia. Obviously, division rivals, in-state rivals, longtime rivals. There's a lot of history and a strong rivalry between these two teams, which makes it a lot of fun to watch. Also, the standings now make this a really important game that's going to be a lot of fun to watch because Pittsburgh is a wild card team clinging to the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, and Philadelphia has pulled themselves up from the absolute bottom of the conference back into somewhat playoff contention. They're not out of it just yet. So this is also a really important game standings-wise. Pittsburgh needs this win to make sure that they stay above the cut line as far as the playoffs are concerned. And Philadelphia, I mean, they need all the points they can get at this point in the season to come back and make themselves a playoff team after the horrendous first half of the season that they had. So huge game tonight between Pittsburgh and Philly, part of the reason I'm live streaming it. Tomorrow, the 12th, we have Washington versus Columbus. Huge Metropolitan Division matchup between two teams that are very, very close in the standings, with Washington and Columbus right next to each other. Met in the first round of the playoffs last year, could potentially meet in the first round of the playoffs again this year. Not exactly a huge natural rivalry between these teams like it is between Washington and Pittsburgh and Washington versus Philly. But still, really good matchup and a very important matchup as far as the standings are concerned. Also tomorrow night, Calgary versus Tampa Bay. And this is just because of the quality of teams that are in this matchup. You have a great Western Conference team against a great Eastern Conference team. Obviously, tons of talent on both teams. Both teams are having outstanding seasons. And it's going to be an absolute blast to watch Calgary and Tampa Bay go at it. And potential Stanley Cup final preview, if things turn out, how they could this year. You have Calgary, one of the best teams in the West. You have Tampa Bay, the best team in the league. It's absolutely possible that these two teams could meet in the Stanley Cup final. I'm not going to go and say it's likely, because I think there's a lot of good competition in both conferences, but it's certainly a possibility given the seasons that these two teams have had. Wednesday, nothing on the 13th that particularly interests me as far as a game of the week goes. So then we get to Thursday, the 14th, Valentine's Day. We have the New York Islanders versus Columbus Blue Jackets. So this is a big game in the Metro Division, much like Washington versus Columbus is, because you have the Islanders who are atop the division right now. You have Columbus who's in a playoff spot but a little bit lower in the division. It's just a really good in-division matchup and should be a really hard-fought, close game. And, Columbus wants to compete with teams like the Islanders. The Islanders want to stay at the top of the Metro, so that should be a really good game. Also that night, Colorado versus Winnipeg. Winnipeg, I don't think I need to say much about the Jets. They're obviously one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They're leading the Central Division. They're a very, very good hockey team. Colorado, After a great start to the year for Colorado, they have been atrocious the last 2 months. Absolutely atrocious. And they've now fallen pretty much, pretty well out of a playoff spot. They're still not out of playoff contention because really when you look at it points wise, almost everybody in the West is still in playoff contention. So I'm not saying Colorado is done necessarily, but they've been passed by Dallas, they've been passed by St. Louis, they've been passed by Minnesota. They're down with Chicago near the bottom of the Central Division. So this is a huge game for Colorado against a divisional opponent and the best team in that division. And they really could use a win against a team like Winnipeg. So that's a huge game for the Avalanche. And then we have Friday, only a couple games on Friday the 15th, nothing game of the week worthy. So we get to Saturday, the last day of the week. We have St. Louis versus Colorado. Again, huge game for Colorado to try and pull themselves back into a playoff spot. It's obviously a massive division game for them. Also, this is a massive division game for the St. Louis Blues, who, after a terrible start to the season, an absolute disaster of a season, have been absolutely on fire the last month or so, and have pulled into a playoff spot now, have been playing much, much better. I talked about them on Saturday, and how surprising it is that they've been able to turn around this completely. But again, if they're going to continue to stay in a playoff spot and really defy what anyone expected from them after the start that they had, they're going to need to beat teams like Colorado. So St. Louis versus Colorado on Saturday. Then we have Montreal versus Tampa Bay. That is a great Atlantic Division matchup. Montreal is pushing Toronto for the second spot in the Atlantic. Now, obviously, nobody is pushing Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is in a league of their own as far as the points are concerned in the league. So no one's catching Tampa Bay, but Montreal is a very, very good team this year. Much, much better than I expected them to be. And they're pushing Toronto. They're ahead of Boston, and they're pushing Toronto. That's a... Really, Boston, Toronto, and Montreal really are all right on top of each other. So I think any of those three teams could land in any of those two through four spots. It's really up for grabs. But Montreal would love to get a big win against Tampa Bay to help bolster them in the standings and maybe get up to that second spot, depending on how the week goes for the Canadiens and Maple Leafs and Bruins, because they're right in it as well. And then lastly, we have Nashville versus Vegas. Obviously, Nashville is one of the best teams in the Central Division. Vegas is a very good team in the Pacific Division. Two quality Western Conference teams, really, certainly playoff teams and teams that, potentially could meet in the playoffs as a Western Conference final. Again, it's not something I would say I necessarily expect because there's a lot of great competition. So I don't know if you can at all really guess the matchups, but it's certainly a possibility given how good Vegas is and how good Nashville is. There's a lot going on there. So that should be a really good game. So not a ton of games for Games of the Week this week, but a few really good matchups, and they're going to be fun ones to watch. So those are my picks for the best games in the NHL this week. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.